It sounds moderate to me, Herb London. What say you?
Well, I think it is a moderate proposal. I think it's a very sensible proposal. The one issue, and this is an issue that obviously is going to come up time and again by the Democrats, pre-existing conditions account for a very significant portion of the expenditures. Accounts for 10 people who are insured. One person who is pre-existing problem, 10 people who are insured. That's 55% of all of the expenditures. Now, what this proposal suggests is we're going to enhance what the insurers presently receive. That's one of the reasons why you saw the stocks go up. But let me make a point about this. When you're dealing with pre-existing conditions, you cannot possibly estimate what is going to happen in the future. So if you put $10 billion, it's probably going to be $15 billion. The federal government is going to have to foot that bill. The Democrats could use this as an argument that is additional expenditures that are unanticipated.
You take away that mandate, the individual mandate and the employer mandate. You freed up the market, the job market, so to speak, and you freed up individual liberty not to have to be covered by the government for these particular illnesses and conditions. That's freedom.
That's what the conservatives in the Republican Party will buy into. That, along with the health savings accounts, which obviously represent a kind of free market opportunity.
Look, the moderates among Democrats in the Senate will surely find this to some degree appealing, Herb.
Oh, I think that's right.
It's a very moderate proposal, is it not? Okay, it sweeps away Obamacare, but it's a starting point. It's moderate. Surely we can expect maybe a couple of moderate
I think we should be able to peel off a couple of Democrats.
Especially with Nancy Pelosi under such pressure as the leader of the party in the House.
Well, Nancy Pelosi, it seems to me, has engaged in a certain kind of hyperbole that has relatively little to do with this proposal. She's talking about hospitals closing, people on the streets, people having illnesses that cannot be attended to. It's really quite absurd. What you have here is the extension of what I would regard as overcome rhetoric that has no relationship to any reality. This is a sensible proposal. Obviously, it could be modified, but it seems to me that it represents the Republican Party coming together and clearly representing an opportunity for Democrats to come aboard as well.
Herb London, I want to talk to you about Nancy Pelosi.
Yes, sir.
Because it seems to me that her position is threatened. She's got a great deal of criticism from fellow Democrats. This morning, she was holding a news conference about health care and was asked a question about her leadership, which she brushed off very, very quickly. Didn't want to go anywhere near it. But I think the Democrats are in turmoil, and I think that's important because healthcare is trying to go through the Senate at this time.
Well, I think that what you're seeing here is a Democratic Party that is in disarray, in part because of Nancy Pelosi's leadership. I think there are some in the Democratic Party who are saying we need a new leader on the House side. I think that those Democrats will speak very loudly and very clearly to their own constituents, suggesting that some change is probably necessary in the future. Keep in mind, Nancy Pelosi is not a youngster. As a septuagenarian, one wonders whether, in fact, her best days were behind her. So I do think that there's probably time for the Democrats to seriously entertain the idea of different leadership. The Republicans have to deliver something. This can't be an anti-Trump party. As a consequence, there is no doubt they will get something. If the issue is Medicaid, there'll be a compromise between the House and the Senate on Medicaid. I don't see that as an issue that stands in the way of as a major impediment. So I do think that something will be accomplished. The Republicans have to do this. It also sets the stage for other legislation. So there's no doubt in my mind they'll get something out of this. Something will be passed. What you are seeing is a suicidal impulse within the Democratic Party. After the election in Georgia, you would think that the Democrats would be somewhat more accommodating. That obviously isn't the case. There's only one sentiment that is expressed by the Democratic Party today, and that's resistance. Even those questions were very interesting, talking about transparency. How do you have transparency when, in fact, you don't even know what this bill or what the proposal would suggest? I mean, it's absurd, absolutely absurd. And that's the argument that's been made by the Democrats. Stuart, it's very interesting to see that over the Obama years, the attitude in America toward health care has changed fundamentally. It is now seen as a fundamental right.
Yes.
As a consequence, a single-payer system has some traction in America. I didn't think that it was possible, but I'm now seeing signs that we're moving in that direction. And I think your observation is correct. If, in fact, we do not get this passed, there is no doubt that this will be one of the proposals that will be put on the table.
So let me wrap this up. We've told you exactly what is in this proposal, and that's what it is. Amendments will be added, and when they've done something in the Senate, then it has to a House Senate conference committee. Am I right on that? That's how things work in Washington. They'll make further changes to it at that point. But the process has begun. The market likes it and drug stocks like it. I say, here's an opinion again, I say at the very end of the day, there will be some form of health care replacement and repeal of Obamacare. I think it's going to happen, Herb London.
Without any question. I mean, this sets the architecture for the entire Trump agenda. And there's no doubt that this will have to be passed. The form and the kind of compromises that are necessary clearly can take place. As I suggested before, if Medicaid is one of the issues, I can certainly see that the slowdown is different in the House and the Senate at the moment. Some sort of compromise can be achieved on that basis. I think the conservatives can look at some of the reforms as free market reforms. That is health care, the kind of health care provisions that exist for individuals, the idea that you would have the pre-existing conditions pretty much handled by the federal government so that you can reduce the cost for individual insurers. I think by and large this is a reasonable proposal, not ideal from the point of view of the conservatives, but I think they get enough out of it to pass this bill and to move ahead. But if you have pre-existing care in the United States, you're going to have a government subsidy for the insurance companies. As I indicated before, whether it's $8 billion to start with or 10 or 12, that will continue to increase.
Yeah.
There is no doubt if you want to lower premiums, one of the things that you have to do is to recognize the fact that the federal government is going to have to be involved with those people who have pre-existing problems.
And that's money coming right back to people's pockets as soon as they get this thing done in the Senate. That's it. So in two respects, the tax cut and the change in the labor market, a boost for the economy. What do you say?
Dramatic boost for the economy.
Dramatic,
but I think Jerry's making an interesting point here, and that is the Republicans have to be able to articulate this argument effectively. Whether they can do so or not remains to be seen. But when it comes to this issue of Medicaid, that really is the issue. Because you can hear it. I can hear this through the corridors of American life, where people are saying, oh, the poor are going to suffer. They're not going to suffer. All we're doing is cutting back on the increases. That's an important distinction. The Republicans actually will allow for many more poor people to receive this service and the kind of service that's necessary. The Republicans have to be able to make that argument to the American public.